you guys. How you doing? It is Monday night. We done made it through the Monday. Whew. Hey, Cement Shoes. Hey, Coolest Reviews. Hey, Tony. Molson Man, you cool cats and kittens. How's everybody? Dave G. What up, what up, what up? Haven't seen you in a hot minute. How is everybody doing? I hope y'all are doing well. So, let's talk about a few things, shall we? Hey, Amelia Sparkles. Hola, fams. Well, hola to you too, Amelia. Hang on, I want to look something up just momentarily, which I can. This part, for whatever reason, if I'm on my phone and I'm talking, I can type and look things up. No problemo. But if I try to do it on the compute on my laptop, oops, while I do it, can't. I'll be typing wrong things in, all the things. It'll be bad news bears. So, the first thing that I want to talk about tonight is not George number 4, but I do want to talk about Adnan Syed because his conviction has been overturned and the judge has ordered him released. There was a hearing today, and I was so hoping that it would be streamed. Y'all have no idea. So after this, okay, so we started streaming this morning, right? And we were going along swimmingly, and we were watching the the special agent from the BCI testify, and we were learning some things, and it was, you know, and then I had stuff to do, right? Because it's Monday, and obviously Sunday is laundry day, but then always spills over into Monday. So whatevs. So anyway, I was doing all that vacuuming, all the things, right? So, but while I'm doing all of the things, I am waiting for this hearing because it was at 2 Eastern. Okay. So I'm refreshing. Oh, I was so, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It didn't get streamed. It was what it was. But so let me read you guys this. And this comes from NBC News. And it reads thusly: Baltimore. A judge on Monday vacated the murder conviction of Adnan Syed years after the hit podcast Serial chronicled his case and cast doubt on his role in the 1999 slaying of former girlfriend Hyman Lee. City Circuit Judge Melissa Finn said prosecutors made a compelling prosecutors made a compelling argument that Syed's conviction was flawed and that he should immediately go free. Trial prosecutors did not properly turn over evidence to defense lawyers from Watts Island. That'd be a Brady violation. That's an actual example of a Brady violation. If you know, you know. And I take every opportunity to point that out. Petty. The trial prosecutors did not properly turn over evidence to defense lawyers that could have helped them show someone else killed Lee, Finn said. And evidence uncovered since the trial would have added, quote, substantial and significant probability that the result would have been different, end quote. Finn vacated murder, kidnapping, robbery, and false imprisonment convictions. The judge ordered Syed released without bail to be placed on home detention with GPS location monitoring. Moments before the ruling, prosecutor Becky Feldman said, quote, justice and fairness, end quote, called for Syed's convictions to be tossed. Quote, the state has lost confidence in the integrity of this conviction and believes that it is in the interest of justice and fairness that his convictions be vacated, end quote, Feldman said. Quote, it is our promise that we will do everything we can to bring justice to the Lee family. That means continuing to utilize all available resources to bring a suspect or suspects to justice and hold them accountable. End quote. Syed, who has a full beard, appeared in court wearing a long sleeve white dress shirt, a dark tie, and a traditional Muslim skull cap. When Finn ordered guards to, quote, remove his shackles, end quote, Syed's supporters inside the courtroom burst into applause. Finn gave the state 30 days to decide whether to seek a new trial or potentially stop the case. Outside court, Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby was hailing the judge's ruling when Syed stepped outside, greeted with cheers, and shown into an awaiting car before he was driven off. Quote, we're not yet declaring Adnan Syed's innocence, end quote, Mosby told reporters. Quote, we are declaring that in the interest of fairness and justice, he is entitled to a new trial, end quote. Maryland Attorney General Brian E. Frosh called Mosby's allegations, quote, incorrect. Quote, neither state's attorney Mosby nor anyone from her office bothered to consult with either the assistant state's attorney who prosecuted the case or with anyone in my office regarding these alleged violations, end quote, Frosh said in a statement, quote, the file in this case was made available on several occasions to the defense, end quote. Maryland prosecutors last week asked that Syed's conviction be vacated, stunning the victim's family. Lee's brother, Young Lee, wept throughout his virtual court appearance Monday, wondering how this turn of events unfolded. Quote, I've been living this for like 20 plus years, and every day when I think it's over, whenever I think it's over or it's ended, it always comes back, he told the court via Zoom. And it's not just me. It's killing me and it's killing my mother, end quote. Steve Kelly, a lawyer for Lee's family, asked Finn to delay Monday's proceedings by 7 days so Lee's brother could attend and address the court. The family wasn't given enough time and didn't have an attorney to make a decision about appearing in court, Kelly said. Quote, to suggest that the state's attorney's office has provided adequate notice under these circumstances is outrageous, Kelly told the court. My client is not a lawyer and was not counseled by an attorney as to his rights and to act accordingly, end quote. But Finn said the family, represented by Lee's brother in California, could easily jump on Zoom to address the court. She ordered a 30-minute delay for the brother to get to a computer so he could dial into the hearing. Quote, I was kind of blindsided, Lee told the court. I always thought the state was on my side, but out of nowhere I hear that there's a motion to vacate judgment, and I thought, honestly, I felt betrayed, end quote. Heyman Lee was 18 in 1999 when she was killed. Her body was found buried in Baltimore's Leakin Park. Syed, now 42, was sentenced to life behind bars in 2000, and his case gained national notoriety from the 2014 podcast Serial. So there you go. Hey, Corky. Good to see ya. Hope I didn't miss anybody. So that's that. Now, 30 days is a very long and short time. I am very, very curious if they will charge Anon again and retry him. I am leaning towards no because I just given the statements, and I feel like if they, first of all, it's them that pushed for it, the prosecutor, it wasn't the defense, although the defense has been asking for this for a long time. But for the prosecutor to be the one that files the motion is interesting and very rare. And also, I think that if they intended to charge Adnan again, they would have been right there at the court ready to file it. I mean, they knew this hearing was coming, they know the procedure, and should the um, and it went the way that they asked for it to go, right? Which is for his thing to be his convictions to be vacated. So, I think if they intended to try him again, I think they would have just gone ahead and filed. So that's the first thing that I want to talk to you guys tonight about. The second thing I want to talk to you guys tonight about, just real quick, I am going to put my Cash App and PayPal into the chat since everybody else and their mother has been losing their minds over who can have PayPals, who can't have PayPals, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to put mine in the chat and I'm going the extra mile and I'm going to pin it. This is something I never, ever do. However, your girl is out of 5 hours. And while this may seem like no big deal, 5 hours are my life. I rely on them with a cup of coffee every single morning to get me started and being bright eyed and bushy tailed to stream the trials. So if you feel so inclined, hit your girl up. I appreciate it very much. And that's all I want to say about it because I really don't want to make a big deal about it. I'm just tired of everybody making a big deal about it everywhere else. Not from, they don't make a big deal about me, just everywhere else. It is what it is. So that is what I've decided I'm going to do. Just I'm going to have one night where I'm just tiny bit petty and that's it. I'm done with it. Now, before we get to talking about the trial today, I do want to take a moment, several moments, because I think this article is fairly long. And I would like to talk about some testimony that we have missed. I know we missed it because the person who was testifying opted out. And I'm not judging. I don't blame them. I probably this was not law enforcement. This was somebody else. Give me just a second while I get it. Before I do that, you know what I want to do? I want to share this Facebook group. It is an excellent, excellent source of literally everything that you could want to know about this case. Okay. I've used it a ton. Here it is. This is the Facebook group because I want to give them credit because this is where I found this article. Um, the admin does an amazing job. She works really hard. She's posted like subpoenas so that you can have an idea of the witness list, articles, just all kinds of stuff. Just it's a great group. There's no drama. Um, I really, it's a really cool group. And, you know, I've been shied away from Facebook for a long time. For a few years now, I hardly ever use Facebook. But Southern Lady had shared it with me, and I when they accepted me in the group and I started reading it, I was just like, holy moly! And I just couldn't. I mean, she has everything in here, and it's just, I mean, they're just really cool people. But, all right, where is it that I want to? Hmm. Let me just click here on this big link. The reason I want to, the reason that I wanted to, click or to read this is because there's been a lot of talk about this grow operation, okay? And I wanted to This is a witness that testified and about about it. So I want to read this article cuz it had a ton of information in it and I just thought it was interesting so we can have the full picture, cuz we missed obviously the the testimony. Let me find it. I'm going to be scrolling for the rest of my days. Probably be easier if I could remember the oh, okay, I see how they have it. The witness's name. I feel like the right name I feel like his name is Brent, but I don't want to say I don't that's not for sure. You know how terrible I am with names. Except for when it comes to the West Memphis 3. Then I can, recall everything. Not really, but most everything. A ton of stuff. But something that I'm looking at right now is not good. Like I can't, my memory is terrible. Oh, Lord. So, yes, thank you, Molson Man. I would appreciate a thumbs up on the stream. I would appreciate that also. Oh my goodness, this can take me forever. I should have had this pulled up. Because this testimony was important and I wanted to read this. Now, what is the problem? Why can't I find it? Hmm. Amelia, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Cripes, I can't find it. Hold on. I know it's in here. Let me just search this way. I don't want you guys to have to just sit here and sit here and sit. Brett Hatfield. That's it. I found it. Okay. So this is from another group. Okay. This is okay. So it's posted in the group that I shared with you guys. Um, oh, support with Stefa. This is this that'll it's going to be it's a lot it's yeah it's a rabbit hole, okay, and I hate to break it to you, but I climbed in that rabbit hole 20 years ago and I'm still there, so best of luck to you. I'm talking about the Pike County murder case. Now we're on to Pike County. Okay, so it was Brett Hatfield. Oh my gosh, Jen. Brett Hatfield was called to the stand. He chose not to be. This is 4 days ago, so this was like day 3. He chose not to be on camera or audio. He knew the Rodens his entire life, he said, and he worked with Kenneth at a company in Columbus. He would ride with Kenneth to work or vice versa. On the day Kenneth's body was found, Brett said he drove to Kenneth's to pick him up, but when he pulled into the driveway at around 4 a.m., quote, no light came on, end quote, and Kenneth did not go to the door. he said it was not uncommon for Kenneth to not show up for work if he was having issues with his blood pressure. So Brett testified he took it as another, quote, one of those days, end quote, and he left without making contact with Kenneth or getting out of the vehicle. Brett said he knew there was a grow operation between Kenneth and Chris, and he said that there was a big drug deal going down, quote, out west, end quote, that was supposed to happen but got canceled. The deal was with Billy Wagner and Chris Sr., who ran drugs together. According to Brett, it was for several $100,000 and involved pounds of marijuana. Billy and Chris started the trek out west in a truck, but Chris got cold feet in Cincinnati and bailed, Brett said. Chris called someone to pick him up and he assumes that Billy continued on but did not know. Brett testified that after the murders, Billy said to people that a local man, Skid Montgomery, was running drugs with Chris and Billy, and that the two latter were cutting out Skid, so Skid had the rodents killed. The state said this was never found to be true. Brett testified that Chris Sr. always had a lot of cash on him, and that Brett saw Chris Sr. have 400,000 in a black bag on him once one day. Another time Brett said he knew Chris was into cockfighting and won 30,000 in a battle. On cross, Brett said he saw cocaine in Chris Sr.'s safe and that it was likely for Gary Roden to use because Gary was a cocaine abuser, according to the testimony. Again, he was asked about the pot grow operation, and he said that it would take 2 to 3 weeks for Chris to sell out of the pot he harvested every 3 months. Brett spoke of an unknown, quote, business partner Chris had in Cincinnati, but did not know the person's name. The defense alluded it was a drug business partner, and this came from another group. I mean, it's inside the other group. It's inside the group I shared, but it came out of they shared it from another group with permission. So that's the deal with that because I feel like I kind of am thinking that um, this is part. Oh, thank you, Nonstop Mom. Thank you very much. I uh, I think that the defense is going to try to say that the true motive, because I remember he said in his opening statement, this was not, they want you to think this is about a custody case. It wasn't about a custody case, right? That's not the motive. And I think that they are going to attempt to push the, um, the grow operation as the motive because I guess they feel like it leaves George out of it, as if George would have no motive to unalive anybody because he wasn't a part of any of that um, business, right? So I don't know how successful that they will be with that because I obviously, it's hard. It's harder to tell the defense's game plan when you can't see the actual witnesses. It's different. I mean, the way that a defense would cross examine a like a BC like the people from BCI or the medical examiner is different than the way that they would question a witness, like an actual witness, somebody who knew the family, somebody who called 911, that kind of thing. Like they would ask me different, the way that they would question me would be very much different than they questioned Dr. Henry Lee, just for an example. And this is the other conundrum that the state faces, okay? And I'm saying this because it's the reality of things sometimes, and you never know what a jury is going to do. But at this moment in time, okay, the this is a death penalty case, okay? And again, we have not heard from Jake and we have not heard from Angela yet. They have not testified, okay? And I so far what we've heard from the agents who have testified today and last week that work for the BCI, right? Or yeah, there has not been any testimony that I've heard yet, but I haven't watched all of the testimony, but thus far, where they have connected forensically George the Fourth, right? George Washington Wagner the Fourth, forensically at this up until this point. And while uh, I believe that George was involved in this crime, even if it was limited to handing Billy a gun or even helping destroy some evidence. He actually, if he didn't even pull, it doesn't matter because when you're there, you're charged as if you were the person who did it. So that is not a question. That's not my problem. I mean, that's not the reason I have a question. The question I have is, does the state have something more to it to put on um other than that ties George to the crime and the crime scenes, other than Jake and Angela? And the reason that I ask that is because, again, it is a death penalty case, okay? And it will be a death penalty case up until Jake testifies. And let's be honest here. Jake may not the state may say, we know you didn't testify to our satisfaction, and therefore the death penalty remains. And I think that a jury is going to find it very, very difficult to sentence a person to death on without something tying George to those crime scenes. Life, I don't think they would have. I don't think if this was not a death penalty case, right? Death penalty completely off the table, not even an issue. And it was just going along the way it is now, except for the death penalty isn't a punishment, right? It's not a potential. I don't think that the jury would have a single solitary problem convicting and sentencing George Washington Wagner the Fourth to life without the possibility of parole on each count, 8 counts of it, right? I don't think they would have a problem with that. But I'm very curious how this is going to play out with a jury, in a death penalty case, you know, with the state at this point, and according to the defense, there's nothing that ties George to those crime scenes. And at this point, we haven't heard any testimony about like those shoes, okay? And why okay, this is my questions. So I have some questions about some of this evidence, right? Um how come so there were supposed to be 3 people involved, right? It would have been Billy, Jake, and George, right? But how come there was only two pairs of shoes purchased? Who was who were the other shoes, like what was the other person, the third person, supposed to be wearing? Because if the purpose of those shoes being purchased, right, was for oops, I clicked the wrong thing, was only for use at the crime, right? Well, how come there was only 2 purchased and not 3? You know what I'm saying? See, this is where it's gonna get a bit tricky, I think, for the state because I'm incredibly curious about those shoes and how they're going to put one of those pairs on George Wagner the Fourth. All right. The first, so the agent that testified this morning is done testifying, and he was on cross, and I'm trying to get his cross exam. So maybe we can get some type of idea about what. Hold on, I think this is it. First of all, let me. Oh, wait, hold on. No. Oh, good Lord, Jen. Here I am, like, how come the. Because I'm clicked the wrong day. We're on day 5. I mean, I was on day 5. The trial is on day 6. See? All right. Let me go back a little ways. Okay. So I've got it now. Let me hide the chat. I cannot like I'm all kinds of turned around apparently today. Woo! All right, so let me add this to the stream. Hey, Anaphylaxis. Good to see you. Okay, so this is an excellent point, Dave. Dave G. Um, that would mean then if so the way that the prosecution sort of laid it out, right, is that according to Jake, when they showed up at Chris Sr.'s house, Jake and George were supposed to come out from the um, false bottom of the truck and ambush Chris Roden Sr. And Jake couldn't see or whatever, something with the silencer, yada yada yada. Anyway, that's not how it happened. And there was the phone call, right? So if that's the case, and you make an excellent point, then that would mean that we know for sure because, well, we don't know for sure. We know from Jake's confession, allegedly, that, and I'm using allegedly not as if he isn't guilty, but I don't know because he hasn't testified to this. I want to know I want to hear I want to hear what he said happened right out of his mouth, right? Okay, so how about apparently? Let's use that word. Apparently, Jake testified that Billy Wagner for sure shot Chris Sr. because he was very upset about it. And he said, I've shot my best friend, yada, yada, right? Okay. So that would mean then that if one person stayed in the truck the entire time, and Jake is saying that he never that George never pulled a trigger, right? That likely it would have been George who stayed in the truck, okay? And this is where it's going to be tricky because the shoe prints, you're going to have to get where we need a where we I think that the jury is, because I mean, I'm all for justice, right? But they're supposed to base everything, their decisions, solely on what they hear in the courtroom and then use their common sense, right? So if it's me, all right, and I'm sitting on that jury and I'm hearing this testimony and I'm hearing all about these shoes and all of the great lengths that the Wagners went to just lie and cover up and all of this, that, and the third, right? I'm going to want something tying George Wagner to those crime scenes other than Jake Wagner, because I feel that the defense is going to work very, very hard to trip Jake up and essentially impeach his testimony. That's what a defense attorney does. And I kind of, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. Okay, so support with Steffa. The reason why that Kenneth became a target is Kenneth knew that Billy and Chris Sr. were meeting. They so he knew about the phone call the night before, setting up a meeting between the two of them. So he was going to be a witness. Essentially, he would have been able to tell people, "Hey, Billy Wagner set up, called my cousin and said he wanted to meet up with him in the morning. Have y'all checked him out?" Right. So the only way to get for him to not be able to say that is if he cannot speak because he's no longer alive. Right. So that's why he was. But also at the same time, it was also Kenneth's habit to shower at Chris Sr.'s house before work. And so I think that they were prepared either way. They were prepared to confront Kenneth should he have been at Chris Senior's when they arrived, and then they were prepared to do what they ended up doing as well. There were not going to be any witnesses. There was not going to be anybody that was going to be able to tell police anything. The police were going to have to put all of there wasn't going to be anybody, that was close and that lived on Union Hill Road or Left Fork Road that was going to be alive after April 22nd to tell the police anything. So, yeah, that's what that's about. Okay, so I want to just see what they had. This is the agent. Oh gosh, just give me a second. I will tell you. Hold on a sec. Molson man, thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. You really are. I appreciate it. Thank you. Um, I wanted to be able to tell you who this actual um agent is. Hold on, let me just go over here and read down the description. Let's see if they put it in. I bet it's in chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, you guys. I really do. All right, hold on. Let me see this. I bet it's here. I can't remember what this agent's name is. It's driving me nuts. Hang on, I'll tell you. I know a different way to find it. Don't you worry. I will find the name for you guys. Oh, I want to tell you guys while I'm looking for that really quick. Um, on 9/19/2022, which would be today, um, there was a temporary suspension filed. So, and it was granted. There was a granting temporary suspension of Edward Jacob Wagner's privileges until he has testified in this case filed and copies to counsel. So that, and they did the same thing to Angela Wagner. She does not get, they don't get any privileges until they testify. So I'm guessing no commissary, no nothing, no nada for both of them. Hold on a sec, because I know that. Let's see. And there have been subpoenas issued to Charles uh, Craven Gilly. Interesting. Hmm. Where is his name? I saw it. Just give me 1 second. Special Agent Hanshaw. That's what his name is. I was going to really just drive me nuts how I found it. Okay, now we can actually play it. All right, let's play it.
If we could start with A41. May I approach the witness?
Sorry, y'all.
Yes.
Sir, showing you what's been marked previously as State's Exhibit A41.
Molson Man is the best.
Let's give the monitors a moment.
You guys are
to
all
turn
the
on.
best. You really are. You guys are really
Okay,
good to
you
me, and I
recognize
really
that. You took
appreciate that.
photograph, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And do you know what that photograph is?
I believe it's a Ford F-150 truck.
All right. Do you know whose truck that is?
I don't recall at this time.
Okay. You can identify it by the license number on the back clearly, correct?
The license number can be identified, yes.
All right. Could you read that, please?
It's George Lincoln George 6077.
All right. And if you notice, in
Right,
the bed of the
support
truck,
with
does there appear to
Steffa?
be a hard top covering that?
Yes,
And you took this photo, right?
I believe so, yes,
And do you
He
need to look
was-
at the back of it or anything?
yes.
Oh my. Just
Showing you A46.
the level of
This
care
has been marked as State's Exhibit A46.
and detail
Believe you
that was
testified
put
concerning
into
this earlier.
collecting
Is that right?
and documenting the evidence in this case is
All right. And this is a back view of
amazing.
the grow room and garage. Is that right?
I think so, yes.
All right. And at the top, you can
You guys
see
really
the
are
door
all the best.
entrance into the grow room.
And
Is
that's
that
why
right?
we're all
Yes.
here, because this is the
Can you
best
see the
chat
door
in
frame
all of
there?
YouTube land.
The white door frame. Do you see that?
Yes,
And showing you State's Exhibit A49. I believe you identified this earlier. Can you take a moment and be sure about that?
yes,
All right, and that's a close-up of that same door frame. Is that correct?
I think it is, yes.
All right, and the door, the hinges, as you look at the photo, are on the left side of the door frame. Is that right?
It appears, yes.
All right, and so it would lock on the right side of the door
I'm
frame. Is that
highlighting
correct?
this.
It could, yes.
Showing you A112, State's Exhibit A112. If you can look at
No,
that for just a moment.
that's the thing,
believe you identified
anaphylaxis.
that
Hold
earlier.
on,
Is
let
that
me pause
correct?
this. Or just turn him down a little
Yes.
bit.
All right, and that is a close-up of that
No,
same door.
just
showing the deadbolt
straight
lock on top
unaliving.
and where the handle would have been directly below that. Is
8
that
family
correct?
members
All right, and that's
of
your
eight
evidence marker number 6
eight
right
members
there?
of the Roden
Yes.
family
And
were
you
unalive
identified
that
what
day.
you thought
There
three
were
blood
4
stains on that door,
crime
correct?
scenes.
Or on the door.
Okay, 3 of the crime scenes
Thank you,
were
sir.
on Union Hill Road. It was really just one property,
And
but
when you were inside
but it was huge.
that grow room,
And
you
so
identified
they all had their
each
separate places,
Take a look at
houses
this for
on
just a moment.
that one big
Sure that
property, and then
was a
down
good
the
photo.
road on Left Fork Road
Yes.
is where
And
where the
that
4th
contains
crime scene
photographs of the marijuana
took
plants,
place.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to go with
Those
this.
appear to be
They're
rather
really
small
focusing on
stains.
this grow room. Let me turn this
Statement?
up.
Yes.
Or
All right. Were there any other marijuana plants within that building, or is that all of them?
I think there may have been others.
Where did the
Okay, you're not sure?
marijuana go?
I believe there were others.
Okay.
Not specifically in this photograph.
Right, so this is just a portion of the marijuana plants.
Yes,
All right. Do you have any idea of the number of plants here?
I don't know.
That wasn't your responsibility to document the number of plants?
Not at that point in the investigation, no.
All right, was it at any point in the investigation?
Not mine, no, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, sir, as you arrived, I believe you said a little bit after noon, a few hours after.
Okay, so anaphylaxis. The apparent, well, the state says that the motive for this is that, okay, Hannah May Roden, who was 19 at the time, was the ex-girlfriend of Jake Wagner. Okay, and they had a 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, together. And Jake wanted Hannah to sign some custody papers, and she was like, no. And allegedly that's what the state is saying is the motive for this crime, is that Angela Wagner, who was Jake's mother and Sophia's grandmother, had at one point Hannah May had told Jake that she had been the victim of molestation when she was younger by a family friend, and that nothing was done about it. Okay. And that and so in Angela's mind, it was very potentially currently happening or going to happen to Sophia. And so that's also part of this motive that that's what the state claims. I feel personally that I think that that is absolutely part of the motive, but I also think that it has something to do with the grow operation as well. I think but I would say that if I had to, it's not 50-50. I would say that custody was probably 55% of the reason, and the marijuana grow operation was what, 45? Yeah. That's what I would guess. I think it was more about the custody, but I also think that the weed was an issue too.
The bodies were discovered, is that right?
Yes,
All right. And do you know whether or how many other people entered that trailer, that home, Chris's home, where Chris and Gary were found? Do you know how many other people entered before you did?
I'll be right back.
not
I gotta let
specifically. I know that two
Nestor out, but
officers
I'll be in chat.
testified to Ball and Music had entered, and I know that somebody had entered, obviously, that found our victims. But other than that, I do not know.
Okay. And when you arrived, and you testified very clearly about how you documented the exterior of the property going counterclockwise, correct?
Yes,
Did you do those photographs of the exterior before you looked inside?
I believe I did.
Okay. And were you wearing a Tyvek uniform that you testified about when you were doing those documentations, photographs of the exterior?
Most of the exterior I would have been, yes.
Okay, let me ask it this way. You arrived, at what point did you put on the Tyvek suit?
When I began to approach the house to do thorough processing.
All right. Was that before you went inside the house or as you went inside?
Absolutely, before I went in.
All right.
I was dressed in Tyvek when I did the work on this scene.
Of course. And I believe there was one other agent with you, correct?
Yes.
And he was in a Tyvek suit as well?
Absolutely, yes.
And his name again, was that Agent Price?
Yes.
All right. Was he there the same amount of time that you were there?
Yes.
Was he inside the trailer when you were inside the trailer?
Not always, but most of the time, yes.
Okay, so there were two of you inside that trailer for a large amount of the time that you were documenting the evidence?
Yes.
Did he take any photographs?
He may have taken some photographs. I'm not sure.
Okay, but the ones you have identified today are the ones you have taken.
As far as I know, yes.
Do you know if he collected any evidence different than what you've shown the jury so far?
I know he did not collect evidence any different.
Okay. And I'm sure that you were very careful as you moved about the crime scene for all the reasons you've given. You didn't want to disturb anything, correct?
Previously, I said I know that he did not. First of all, on that particular day when we worked together, I know that he did not. And yes, we did move very carefully within the residence.
Right. Now, when you arrived around 12, little afternoon, I think you said 12:20 or so.
Yes.
That's obviously in the middle of the day, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you know if there were any interior lights that were turned on when you arrived?
I don't recall.
So at the time of these murders, you don't know what the lighting conditions were like inside the trailer. Is that fair to say?
I don't recall. It seems as though they were not on, but that's a hard thing to remember and give an exact answer to. So I don't recall if anything in the living room was on or not.
Or the bedroom?
Yes.
Or the kitchen?
Yes.
Now, once the bodies were removed, I think you said that was probably around 3 o'clock in the morning. Is that fair to say?
Somewhere around that time, yes.
Okay. Once those bodies were removed, you left the scene shortly thereafter. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Did you ever return to the trailer yourself?
I did not. Prior to leaving, I had a discussion with my supervisor, and I indicated that obviously somebody needed to return, whether me or another agent. If you recall, BE 13.0 in the floor, we had not gotten underneath the residence yet. There were many, many things that needed to be done. However, we did need to get that evidence to a facility to where we could get started processing it. And so it was understood that somebody would come back, but it was not me.
It was not you.
Yeah, I had other obligations, and I had to unfortunately go take care of those things, other case obligations.
Sure. Now, you testified earlier today about the broken eyeglasses and the lens that was out of the eyeglass, correct?
Yes.
Is that a classic sign of a struggle or a fight, in your opinion?
In this particular case, I didn't think it was.
You did not think it was?
No.
Now, you were very careful at the scene and even here most of the time in handling the evidence with gloves, correct?
Yes.
What type of gloves were those?
I believe they were latex glove.
Right. And why do you use latex gloves?
Actually, I wear those because they were the double thick gloves, less possibility of any kind of transfer. They actually fit my hands. I have large hands. And the reason for wearing gloves at all is to attempt to keep from transferring any DNA to anything you're working with.
And certainly, if I were wearing, for example, let me give you a hypothetical. If I were wearing a cloth glove, you know what a jersey glove is?
Yes.
What's a jersey glove?
It's one of the brownish gray small cloth gloves
Kind of a work glove?
used for work glove, yes.
Yeah, kind of a work glove. If I were to wear a jersey glove and I dipped my hand with the glove into water and then I touched a doorknob, what would you expect to find on the doorknob?
I've never tried that. I don't know.
Well, would it surprise you if the doorknob is wet from the water?
Yes, it could get wet.
All right. Same thing with blood. If somebody has a jersey glove on and they touch blood, it could transfer to a doorknob or to a door. Would you agree with that?
It could, yes.
Likewise, if I were to put two gloves on, if I took a bare hand, put a jersey glove on here, and then took the gloved hand and put another jersey glove on the other hand, there could be DNA from my skin on the exterior of that jersey glove. Is that right?
It's possible.
And that could transfer to an object I touch. Is that
It could, yes.
Now, these diagrams are very helpful, but I do want to ask you a question or two if I could. Now, just showing you what was previously marked as State's Exhibit 545, the biological evidence. You remember this, correct?
Yes,
All right, does everybody see this? Okay. And at the top, and I think you testified, this was prepared but not to scale. Is that correct?
yes.
All right, and what does that mean, not to scale?
That means if a grid were laid out on that paper and a measurement was taken of a building, for instance, the drawing on the paper, if it's not to scale and not laid out perfectly on the grid, would not necessarily give the correct exterior dimensions or a wall dimension. However, it would show a rough example of what you're trying to document. So not to scale wouldn't be not to complete exact measurement.
Right, were there exact measurements made in the interior of the trailer?
So it depends on the 3D scanner, and I did not work with the scanner.
All right, but there were no other measurements taken?
No,
Spoiler
What about
alert,
on the outside
I'm
of the
going to push
trailer?
pause.
Were there any measurements taken?
There was a 3D scanner used, and there were measurements taken.
no.
Now, a little while ago, just before lunch, you testified about State's Exhibits 7, 8, 9, and 10, which were the cords that you found up in the grow house. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you find any evidence of blood on those cords?
I did not.
Did you collect the cameras that you had photographs of on the outside of the grow room?
I did not collect those cameras at that time. No.
Now, there was a picture in Chris's bedroom of a large gun safe. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And the handle on that, correct?
yes.
Now, when you were in that room, was that safe open or closed?
I believe it was closed.
All right. Did you ever open the safe yourself?
I did not.
Was it opened in your presence?
No.
Now, you had very thoroughly documented the two victims in the bedroom where the bodies were found, correct?
Yes,
All right. As you stood at that doorway from the hallway into the bedroom near the safe, right?
yes.
All right. As you're looking at the bodies, would Gary's body have been the furthest away from the door?
Yes,
And then Chris's would have been closest to the door? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
yes.
In your opinion, does that mean that Gary was placed in the room first?
It appeared that Gary was dragged in there first, and then Chris was later dragged in.
Now, you're certainly aware, aren't you, that the trailer was eventually transferred into a storage facility? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Do you know how long the trailer remained on that piece of property before it was placed into storage?
I do not.
Showing you another
I think
aerial
you're right.
photograph, State
Support with
Exhibit
Steffa.
544. I'm sure you remember this. Is that right, sir?
Yes,
All right. You did not take this aerial photograph, did you?
I did not.
No. But it's an accurate depiction of the scene at 4077 Union Hill. Is that right?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay. If I could ask you to hold that so the jury can see it. And then, so I just want to point out a couple of things here. Now, this is an aerial photograph, and this is Chris's trailer right there in the middle. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And there are numerous cars, trucks, different automobiles scattered about this property. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Did you have any responsibility in documenting any of those vehicles?
Actually, I did take photographs, as I stated earlier, of the vehicles in order to try to capture the registration numbers.
Hold on a minute.
According to my report that submitted earlier, I actually did apply fingerprint powder to some of the vehicles in an attempt to locate any partial fingerprints or anything of that nature in this vicinity in case somebody touched that as they were entering or exiting.
And did you submit those fingerprints for analysis?
I didn't locate anything.
You did not locate anything?
Yes, I did not.
Okay, you attempted to find it,
Yes.
but you did not find it.
I did not find it.
Yes, support with
Now,
Steffa. This
earlier
was
you
a big
identified a
deal.
pickup truck with a hard top on it.
If
On the bed. Do you
you,
remember that?
Yes.
Would that be this truck right here?
I think it's on
Oh my
YouTube,
goodness,
babe, but I know
think
for
it
sure
is.
it's on the
Okay.
Googles.
And that's this area
There's
here.
tons
there's the
of
main road, right?
articles
This is
about the
Union Hill Road
day
right here.
Yes.
that they
Right, and then there
came
appears
and
to be a
moved
lot of
all of
dirt
the
roads or
trailers
dirt
and stored them.
driveways or
Yes.
paths throughout the property. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. When you were documenting the exterior of this property, walking
FYI,
around this
Alice
property,
has awoken.
did you
We're all in
document these dirt
big,
driveways for
big
entire trucks?
trouble.
I actually looked physically.
Just so you know.
Or I looked visually to see if I could find anything physical, any kind of physical evidence, footwear or tire tracks.
And did you find it?
I didn't.
Okay. And to the right, as we're looking at this photo, to the right of the truck with the hard top on the bed there, do you see a red pickup truck nearby?
I think that's, yes,
To the right here?
yes.
All right. Is there any other red truck in this vicinity?
Next time when Molson and I do another live, because we got to, I'm sure there's
When you say that,
going
that's
to be
over
some
towards
movie
Frankie's,
that
right?
he and I are like, oh my
Right
gosh,
down
did
the
you
dirt
watch?
path, pretty
Right?
far away from the trailer. where
We'll
Chris
we'll
was,
have to
correct?
get him
Okay.
to get
there any other red
Manson
trucks?
and put him on
Please.
this on
That may be a
camera
truck
because
there.
he is
Okay, that's
a
even further away.
handsome
towards
boy.
Frankie's, is that right?
Molson is handsome as well, but
Any other?
Manson is very handsome. It's a gorgeous cat. No, you don't support with Steffa. No, you do not have issues. Let me tell you something. If I could have convinced my sister to stop
I could have just a moment, Your Honor.
on our way to Chicago in West Memphis, and I tried every way. I even threw out I'm the older sister, you have to do what I say card. But we really were like pressed for time.
Hey,
And then
read
on
your
the way
record.
back, there was flooding and it took us a different way, yada, yada, yada. But if I could have, at some point, someday, I will go out to West Memphis and I will see all the things. And I will do that walk from Lakeshore to the drainage ditch. Absolutely. And I will do the other walk across that pipe bridge.
Agent Hanshaw, I put back up for you and for the jury what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit A547.
When I lived in Arlington,
tell
I went by the
The jury
Winn-Dixie.
what that is?
It was abandoned. That Amber
Yes, it's
Hackerman was
a, not to
kidnapped
scale
from frequently.
Drawing of the residence of Christopher Road.
Do you have your pointer?
Yes.
Do me a favor, point to where you found that lens that Mr. Parker talked to you about, that eyeglass lens.
In that area.
Okay. And when you were in there processing that scene, were you able to see that lens there on the floor and in relation to where that blood was?
Yes.
Okay.
I see what they're
And-
going for.
You heard the stipulation. Well, let me back up. You actually took a swab somewhere up in this area. I believe it was swab number 20, your item number 20. You took a swab of that blood. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And why did you take a swab of the blood in that area right there?
As I testified to earlier, there was an accumulation of blood in that particular area.
This is
And what I-
redirect, by the
what I
way. They
mean by an
hardly questioned
accumulation of
him at
blood,
all.
if you were to cut your
cross.
hand and you were to stop in one spot, stand there for 5 minutes, and then move, there would be more blood in that spot than there would be anywhere else. And at that point, I felt like the accumulation of blood in that spot was most likely where that bloodletting event had occurred. That's also where I found the lens, and item number 20 was the blood of Gary Roden.
Okay. And when you say bloodletting event, your type of term, right? That's
Yes.
not
No,
scientist,
because
but
let me,
a CSI guy.
wasn't
Yes.
that like in
Right.
Lubbock? Let me
Yes.
look.
In layman's term, is that where somebody fell and laid while they bled?
Yes.
Okay. And that blood, again, as it stood out to you as being pooled there, was right next to an eyeglass lens. Is that
Colleen,
correct?
Texas.
Yes, it was.
And you just
Hold on a
testified
It's
that
not near, it wasn't anywhere
that
near
DNA
me,
on that blood right there belonged to Gary Roden.
but
Is
I
that
want
correct?
to tell
Yes.
you exactly
And
where it is.
throughout the investigation, did you also learn that Gary Roden wears glasses?
Yes.
Be helpful if I spelled it correctly.
When you looked at that, based on your knowledge, your training, your experience, and your analysis of that scene, were you able to draw any opinions with respect to where Gary Roden
Okay,
fell
so
after being shot?
that's what I thought. Colleen is
That
in,
location where the lens, item number 31, that's where I thought he fell. That's where I thought it occurred.
would have been way
Consistent
south
with being shot and
of
fallen,
where I live.
as opposed to a struggle. As
And I
Mr.
never
Parker
went
asked you
by
about.
it.
Is that correct?
Yes, there was
Fort Hood's out
nothing else
there.
in the area that indicated a struggle.
Like I've been through, like I,
And that chair here.
on my way to
this chair
Austin
here,
to see my, to
It
you know, to
wasn't
be in
flipped
Austin,
over,
I,
flipped back, opened up, or anything like that.
There's an
correct?
exit you can
Yes,
take to go to
that is
Colleen, but
correct.
I never
And
obviously
as you
took
looked at
it.
that chair, no discernible blood or anything like that on that chair. Is that correct?
No.
Now, you did say, or did you testify that it did appear that that chair had been
Oh, wow,
moved or
yeah,
handed?
supports
or
with stuff,
pushed.
yeah.
Is that
I'm
correct?
going to do
I
that
felt
walk.
that the chair had spun around because BE 13.0, which is ballistic
Well-
event or bullet hole in the floor, that we looked at earlier, it was partially being covered by the corner of that chair. So in order to find BE 13.0, we
At
slid the
different
chair back
points in my
around
life,
and then it was made obvious.
time in Texas,
BE
I was closer to,
13.0,
you know, like,
was that actually up like in this area here?
hold on,
Yes.
I don't want to yell over this gentleman. When I, there's been times when I would have been, it
As you
wouldn't have been
testified
that far
on
of a
the
drive,
record, BE
but
13.0, it
I
had,
just never did.
it had blood stains around it as well, correct?
Yes.
And as a matter
All
of
right, I'm
fact,
gonna skip
did you
through this,
testify that those blood stains had a
because I want
sweeping
us to
pattern that
hear
actually moved and
this next
linked up with?
officer from BCI testify. Because he's the one with the 3D scanner. Let me speed him up just a
In a nice
little.
loud voice, can you give everyone your name, please?
My name is Todd Fortner,
Can you spell your last name for the court recorder?
Fortner,
Where do you work?
at the Bureau of Criminal Investigation.
What do you do for the Bureau
Oh,
of Criminal
Let me
Investigation?
skip
I'm a
forward
special
a little
agent,
bit.
currently
'Cause
assigned to the special.
Where did you make your way down to at scene 1, 4077? Where did you hook up with Agent Hanshaw, and where did you start the process?
there's a lot of
doing your
his qualifications.
Yeah, so from here, I believe I just pulled down the road here and got my equipment out.
Also, there's a lot of this. In order to make the visual, the exhibit visible to the jury, it means it's out of camera, you know, for the audience streaming.
Met with Hanshaw right here in the front yard.
So it's hard for
He briefed
us.
me on what he saw and what he had, and where we should probably start scanning from. And we went from there.
I remember
Okay.
watching this
walk us through. What do you
testimony.
remember about scanning that scene?
So I know we scanned, we did one scan from outside, out front, where you could see kind of the whole front yard. There were bullet holes in the front of the trailer that were then subsequently we placed trajectory rods in. And to measure those, we placed spheres on those rods that then the scanner can pick up to measure our angles. So I did 2 scans on the porch to make sure I got all the measurements I needed on those spheres. And then we began to go inside.
And I'm going to walk you through later on. I'm going to walk you through specifically, because can you specifically with a barrel machine use it to help determine trajectory of projectile strikes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And ultimately, did you end up doing that in this case at a later time?
Yes, we did.
I'm going to come to that later. We're going to talk about the general scan right now. All right.
Okay.
So did you set up and scan out front?
Yes, I did.
And walk us through, how does the scanner record what you're doing? And then how do you go back in later and look at it and gather data or information from it?
So it
I think Save
records
Robbie
basically
and
what we
his
call a point cloud. All
fiance
these points that
Michael
it
went
measures,
and
that it
ate
shoots all
at
around it.
Lazy Dog
are in one big cloud. that we
Over
then
this
take back and put in
weekend.
software. We can stitch those together, and it will tell us within a certain tolerance how they're aligned. And if it's outside of the tolerance, we obviously have to continue to try and line it up. And then you can use that data to colorize it. We can create 3D models out of it. We can do measurements from it.
And ultimately, is that done through a software package?
Yes, it is.
And then how do you access that software package and ultimately bring it to court so a jury can see it?
So there are multiple ways. We can, once we get the point cloud together, it is what it is. There's no manipulating that. We may go in and clean up some of the images. For instance, when the scanner, if a laser beam hits the edge of something, edge of a table, let's say, we can get what we call a skip, where it'll shoot a point, but it basically puts it out in space where it skipped off.
I'm
that
curious.
corner.
I'll have to ask
So
them.
we
or
can go in and clean some of
I
those
think
out.
it would have been funny if
usually I
Robbie
can't get
would
them
have
all,
been. They
but
don't
just to
have
make it
the
look a
good
little
food
cleaner.
at this location.
Once we
and
get
they
all that
got up and
done,
left.
we in essence lock it so that that's the data we're using, but we're not going to be able to change the data, just put it in different formats. We can put it into a 3D world where we can go in and walk around in that world and show you. We can do a fly-through video that will just, be like
Let's see
basically a
what
short
they
movie
did in this case. And if we
flying
get
a
to
certain
see-
path
Hold on.
throughout that scene.
And again, even though you can
33.338 feet.
just over 10 yards,
All right. There's the
if you
three.
could
Here
turn
we
us
go.
back more towards the door so we see the front door of the.
There
You
we
talked
go.
about
This is what
cones.
we
Are the
wanted to
cones,
see.
or not the cones, but the spheres that you put out there on that day, are those visible in that picture?
Yes, they are.
And what do those spheres represent?
So those are on the trajectory rods. The rod runs through the center of the sphere, and the machine knows, and the software knows how big that sphere is. They're ordered from the company. They're very precise. It can find the center point of that sphere. If we can get enough points around the sphere for it to recognize it. If you put one at either end of the rod, it will then measure those center points between them, and that can then be extrapolated back to show the trajectory of the projectile.
Can you take another measurement for me?
Yes.
Could you measure, just pick center mass, I guess, on those spheres. Measure from that sphere right there. We'll just pick that one right there. How high that is off of the wood of that front deck, right in there.
Approximately 3.484 feet.
Okay. All right. In addition to setting the scanner up and scanning outside, did you also go inside of a residence there at 4077 Union Hill Road?
Yes, we did.
Walk us through how you did that, how you said, well, first of all, again, when you went into this residence, were you extremely careful not to disturb any of the evidence?
Yes.
As you walk through the front door into that residence, walk us through, well, what do you see in it? First of all, when you walk in there, what do you observe? Tell the jury what your observations are, what you're able to see.
Well, first at the door, there were observed bullet strikes here at the beginning of the porch, as well as several strikes around the door area that Agent Hanshaw had already marked and showed me when he briefed me on the scene.
Okay. And eventually you go in and walk us through what you see inside that door.
What you writing there, George?
So,
Oh, did you shoot another scan
I'm
from?
sorry, I just went to another scan, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. I'm sorry. Walk us through each one of the scans that you did. So the next scan you did was
All right,
that
let's
up on
see
the
if
porch
they
as well?
give us
This is on the
another
porch. Again, you can see these
one
spheres,
to look at. Hold on.
and they're kind of around the rod. It will then measure those center points between
Oh
them.
wait, I already
That
was.
can then
We
be
were at that
extrapolated
already.
back to show the trajectory of the projectile.
The blood drag marks at all. All right. Can you do me a favor? Can you just
So he
step
did
out
go in
and step
support
so
with
the jury can
Stefa.
see? The size you are today is, well, how tall are you?
I'm 6'6",
And how much you weigh?
and north of 300 pounds.
Back in 2016, all right, were you that same size?
Probably, yes.
Okay. Were you still at least 6'6"? You haven't shrunk since 2016. Okay. And we're back in 2016, were you still north of 300 pounds?
Yes.
Okay. On April 22nd, 2016, were you able to move yourself and whatever equipment through that hallway without disturbing that evidence?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever get stuck or hung up on anything?
No.
Okay. Ever bang off of anything or crash anything or knock everything over?
No, it was as wide as a standard doorway because there was a doorway involved.
Okay. And still, even though you're 6'6", north of 300, you could maneuver back and forth in that area. Is that right?
Yes.
My mom
you.
did
Yes.
traveling histology support with Stefa. She made great money.
So if you
She's
could,
awake and writing
we're going to
things.
do the same thing here. Let's do a 360 all the way around real quick. Not real quick, but go nice and easy.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys is this vest. So this morning, one of the chatters said that it's a shot that he's because I can't figure out
All right,
why
if you
it's so
could take us to your
bunched
next
up like
scan
that.
location.
And one of the
Where are we now?
and I thought maybe it was like a bulletproof vest.
And I'm going to have you do the
right?
exact same thing, orient it so the jury can see, and then give us a 360
That's what he
degree scan.
said
Nice and easy. Is this
'Cause
the
he's-
door leading into that bedroom?
Yes.
because he's in there
And
with
again,
it
when you set
now,
the
babe.
tripod up there, are you avoiding blood or contaminating or disturbing any of the evidence?
Yes.
All right. Walk us through, give us a 360.
Anyway, we were talking about that vest, and one of the chatters said that it was a shock vest. Like if you, it just like it sounds. If you ain't act right, you get it.
All right.
You
Did
get a
you do
little.
more scans back in that bedroom?
Yes, there are 2 more.
Can you walk us back to those? Nice and easy.
This poor family. It's been days of this now for them, like whole days of them having to look at of this being
And
shown.
again,
I
were you
can't
able
even
to make it back to
imagine.
that spot to set up your scanner, even though you were 6'6" and north of 300?
Yes.
Okay. And then one final scan. If you could just give us a nice, easy 360 there.
And I don't see Chris and Gary Roden's
All right, I'm
mom
going to ask you to do just a couple measurements, and I
in
don't know
the
what scan
audio.
would
Oh
be
yeah, there
easiest for
she
you to get
is.
to, but
She's sitting on the other side
can you
today.
give us the distance from the front
Wait.
door of 4077 to the start of the blood trail by the rocker recliner?
I mean, I think that it's under the leather vest, meaning
362 feet.
that's why we're seeing this
Can you give us
bunching.
the distance of that drag mark right there
And so
to Chris Roden Sr.'s body in that back room?
that's what's happening. I can look. I cannot believe
That's fine.
this fool is
sure
watching
you
this.
track it
Look
down.
at him. I've never.
24.6.
Yeah, something is definitely under there.
Can you come a little bit to the left for us there? Oh, that scans. Are you still going to go into that back bedroom? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Look at him. Look at him watching it. This is what I think is weird about it. Okay. Obviously, your defense attorneys, they have to look, right?
And probably additional 8.6.
And I
So that first one.
don't know anybody aside from
Probably
us
32, 33.
that are
Okay.
deeply invested in
Can you
true
do
crime
the same thing
cases that would
for
be looking.
the-
Everybody
go back to
else
the-
would be
the
like, I
living room.
can't. Like even the family is just taking like tiny glances and then looking
Come
away, and then maybe another
that
little, you
pool
know
of
what I
blood
mean?
right there.
And
Can
here
you track
he
that
is,
one back to
like he's at an afternoon at the
location of Gary
movies.
Roden?
I cannot believe him.
It's 20.939.
All right, let's see what else there is. All right, here we go.
On this day that you came back out to do this trajectory analysis, Mr. Junkin, you can give me the overhead of no count. I'm gonna put up Stacy's exhibit S1
The only thing the only criticism I would have of this prosecutor is that he's always asking Mr. Junk to do stuff for him, but he
Bob
never
sniffing
says please.
firearm casing sniffing dogs. Were you able to locate any shell casings in that area right there that were associated, that you believe to be associated with this case?
Not a single one.
Oh,
Give me one second.
they who's playing tonight, Molson? They are not showing Well, yeah, they're displaying them,
getting
but
ready
they're
to
not,
switch topics
we're not
with this
seeing
witness. I
them.
don't know.
Who's playing tonight
wanna
on
take a
Monday
break
Night
now?
Football, babe?
Well, we can. Do we know, we have some idea about how long the witness will?
If I drove him straight, we could probably be done at 4 o'clock. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how long we're gonna be.
But if you think there's a reasonable chance to be done by 4 o'clock if you go straight, then I would say the jury may prefer to just go on.
I don't know.
You know my policy on
The second I say that,
Philadelphia.
we'll be here at 4:30. So we
Guess I'll be
All
rooting
right,
for the
We'll take
Vikings.
a break. We've been at it for a while. So we'll take a 15-minute break. I have 3:13, so at 3:30, you need to be back at the jury room to be brought up here by court personnel. Do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not permit the case to be discussed.
That you took out there on that day that you were doing this follow-up work.
Yes, I did.
And did I show you state's exhibits N1 through N45?
Yes,
And do you recognize those pictures?
yes.
And what are they?
They're pictures of the floor, the trajectory rod, and underneath the trailer subsequently.
With respect to state's exhibits N1 through N45, were there also pictures of other work that you did out there that day?
Yes, there were pictures of the opening of the safe and the recovery of items from there.
You also have the opportunity to look at the back of those pictures, or at least take a peek at the back of those pictures and notice the initials ATF and then a digital or a number associated with that.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell the jury what is it? What are those numbers or letters?
Molson.
The serial number that the camera gives each photo goes to 9999. So
You know that
10,000
I'm
photos basically.
Like
And we
blood
use
bound not to like
our initials
the Eagles.
before
I
that,
just
so we know
can't.
whose camera was used.
It's a Texas thing.
My full name happens to be Aaron Todd Fortner. ATF are my initials. So those would have all been taken by me or with my camera.
Okay, and the cameras even the pictures that were taken with your camera with respect to the work on that day, would you have been at least in pretty much close proximity where you've been able to observe or been briefed on what pictures were taken?
Yes, I would have been.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. State's exhibits N1, N2, N is in November, I'm sorry, N3, N4, N5, 6, 7,
Are they going to
8,
show any of this stuff? Not because I
9,
just kind of, it's hard to
10,
understand what you're talking
11.
about.
12, and 13. So basically, the state's exhibits N1 through N13.
It's a revolver, a semi-automatic handgun.
All right,
and
here's
a
the
carbine
guns.
pistol.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. States, well, first of all, were those guns that were found in the safe?
Yes,
Okay, and were those guns that were collected and taken into evidence in this case?
yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. The state's exhibit N40, which is ATF 2958.
Oh, dear.
Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there?
Yes, this is a photograph of long guns taken from the
Oh,
safe.
And
my.
again, did you itemize each of
Really?
those,
That's
give
a
them
lot.
unique BCI number and take them into evidence?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. State's exhibit N41, which is ATF 2959. You take a look at that for me. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes, it's a closer view of some of those long guns taken from the safe.
And were those collected as evidence in this case?
Yes.
Give me one second.
You know, I think this is an excellent point that they're making to the jury. The fact of the matter is that
In addition to the
Clearly,
items featured, guns
Mr.
and the other items
Roden
collected from the safe,
Sr.
did you
had
find
guns,
a GPS tracker in
but
that
he
safe?
didn't see,
Yes.
he never thought that Billy Wagner was a
I'll show you what's
threat.
been marked for identification purposes. The state's exhibit
This is not like he had an
N48.
out, number one. And
You
number
recognize
two,
the markings on the package of state's exhibit N48.
Yes.
it's a clear ambush.
Can you tell us what markings? you
And
recognize?
it's
Yes,
also
there's one
says
of our
that
evidence stickers.
Chris Sr.
stating it
knew.
is
I
evidence
mean,
number
Billy
86,
Wagner knew
GPS tracker.
that
Correct.
he
collected
was
from
that
the
Chris
bedroom safe.
Sr.
And
and
again, does it have
there
you
were
as the agent
guns in the
identified
home.
as the person who collected that?
And they knew
submitted
they
into
had to
evidence?
get in and
It does, and it
do
has
it
my
quick.
initials
That's
on
why they went to his house first.
Would you like me to open this?
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
You know what I mean? Oh, we've already dropped a piece of evidence. Oh dear.
you recognize the items inside that package?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury what it is that you pulled out of that package?
These are pieces of what is believed to be a GPS tracking device.
And again, was that an item that you pulled out of the safe as part of your work there at 4077 Union Hill Road?
Yes.
Go ahead, put that back in for me. Does that have markings on it that it went to the lab?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
In addition to the GPS tracker and the other things that you talked about, were there various miscellaneous documents in that safe that were ultimately collected?
Yeah, I only
as
touched it with one
evidence?
hand, though, so I suppose.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Definitely cross-examine.
Not much of a cross. 15
Good,
minutes.
how are you, sir?
Good. A few follow-up questions. if I could. I'm John Carter, I represent Mr. Wagner over here. Let's start where we kind of ended. If I could name an item to this point. Are we able to do that? The photos you just went through?
That's all the photos are up there. So
Okay.
the way to do it would be to look at the photo and give you the digital number on that.
That's fine. Just a few follow-up questions concerning some of these photos. Did you take these photos you just identified?
I either took all of the photos or I took most of them, and one of the other agents could have taken them with me there at the scene.
Okay, it was with your camera.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to ask you to look at State's Exhibit N40, which I believe has ATF number 2958. Is this one of the photos you just identified, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and are those the long guns or the long rifles that you seized from the safe that you just talked about?
Correct.
Is that all of them?
I believe so.
All right, do you know how many there are there?
Not off the top of my head, I do not.
Okay, but they're all pictured there. If we could count them, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe 16? Does that sound about right?
At least.
At least. Do you know what type of long rifles those were?
Yes, there are rifles, there are shotguns. There's some bolt action rifles, lever action rifles.
All right. And did you make a list of everything that was seized from that safe, an inventory?
Yes,
All right, and those would have been listed with some detail in that
it
inventory.
would have been listed on the inventory, yes.
Okay. Showing you State's Exhibit N39, which is ATF number 2957. You see that, sir? You just identified this a few moments ago, is that right?
Correct.
Now, there are 3, I guess those are handguns, is that right?
2 are handguns. One is a carbine handgun.
Okay, let's take them one at a time if we could. I'm not a gun person, so I apologize for my ignorance. But in the lower right-hand corner, there appears to be a white-handled revolver, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know the size of that revolver?
I do not.
Would it be, if one looked at that pistol, had it in its hand, would you be able to tell the size of it?
It should have markings on it, yes.
Okay, but they're not readily discernible from the photo, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. Now, just to the left of there, there's another gun. What kind of gun is that?
There's a semi-automatic pistol.
And what is a semi-automatic?
It's for each time you depress the trigger, it fires one cartridge, ejects the casing, and loads another cartridge to prepare to fire.
And that's different from the revolver next to it, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell the jury the difference, just so we're on the same page?
Revolver has a cylinder that drops a hammer on each individual cartridge to fire, and then the cylinder rotates to the next.
And the casing would stay inside the
Correct.
revolver?
Correct.
All right, would not eject it like a semi-automatic?
Right.
Okay. Now, it appears to be a large gun above that.
Yes.
What is that?
It's, I'm not familiar with these weapons a lot, but what they would call a Pt.2 or Mac 11. They can be converted to full automatic.
And what does a full automatic mean?
It will continue to fire cartridges as long as you hold the trigger.
And do you know, like, the maximum capacity for the cartridge in the top weapon?
It does not appear there's a magazine in that weapon, so
Do you know
whatever
the-
the capacity of the magazine you put in.
Okay, so it does not have a magazine in it at this point?
Right.
But you could put one in there?
Sure.
And what size do those magazines come in, if you know?
20, 30, 100,
All right.
multiple.
Holy
All right, so let's say
guacamole.
it's a 20 capacity magazine. You put the magazine in, hold the trigger, and it would fire 20 with one pull of the trigger?
It could, yes.
And the same if you use the larger magazines?
If this were converted to full auto, yes.
Yes.
They do make semi-automatic versions.
Fair enough. And do you know the size or the caliber of the bullet that would be fired from that?
I do not from this picture.
Fair enough.
I don't understand the point of this because these were in the safe. So I don't understand this line of questioning because I mean, it doesn't appear that they were fired
And
that
the
day.
cash that you talked about a moment ago, did you say it was more than $20,000 cash?
I believe so, but I did not count it.
Would that be listed on the inventory somewhere?
Inventory would list that there was cash taken and turned over to the sheriff's office.
So somebody else would be responsible for counting it,
Yes.
but you're familiar with the results of that, and it's over 20,000.
Anaphylaxis,
what
are
I've
you
heard.
still in here? Because if you are,
Now,
when that,
let's
hold
back
on,
up a
I
little
have a
bit.
question. Yes, let's back up a little bit.
Approximately what
Hold on a minute. Excuse me, sir. So this is what I want to know. So in a case like this, where there's 20 grand or more, just for this example, we'll say 20 grand, that's found in a safe in a home that is a crime scene, and it's all inventoried, et cetera, and it's collected and it's turned over to the sheriff's department. How long does that money sit at the sheriff's department, and can the family go get it at some point? I want to know that.
time did you arrive on the
I'm
scene?
worried about that 20K.
Approximately 1:50 in the afternoon, I believe, at my scene.
Okay,
It would have been earlier in Pike,
sure. So what time did you arrive at the home where you did the scan that you just talked about?
1:50 PM, I believe.
About
or
1:50.
thereabouts.
And how long were you there approximately?
Until after midnight, I believe.
All
Oh
right.
my
So how long
gosh.
did it take you to do these various scans?
7 minutes per scan roughly. There were, I believe, 10 scans in that one, so an hour, a little over an hour to do one scene.
All right. And what were the lighting conditions like? If you arrived at 1:50 in the afternoon, it's the middle of the day, correct?
Right.
It was a sunny
Oh,
day, right?
thank you,
Yes.
Mrs. M.
Do you know the
that
lighting
makes
conditions at the
sense.
time of the crimes?
No, I do not. I do know in my scene, it appeared that it would have been,
Thank you.
It would have been
Okay.
nighttime.
Let me put this.
But you don't know
Let
whether
me highlight
interior
this.
lights were on or not. Is that fair to say?
are we talking about at 4077 Union?
Let's talk
Hall?
at 4077.
I do not know. I did not investigate that.
Okay. Now, you had the various trajectory rods that you have identified,
I'm just
correct?
curious because
Do you know the
there's
size of the
some,
bullet holes that those were placed in?
there was an issue at with the
It
sheriff.
appeared, maybe I'm wrong,
At
but
the
it
sh-
appeared
with
that the rods were
Sheriff
a
Redding, who
slightly
handled the case
smaller
in the
diameter
beginning.
than the holes. Is that correct?
Some embezzlement,
Probably, yes.
some theft.
That's why I believe if
And
you look
so
at
I
one of
was
the photos,
curious.
we used modeling clay to center that rod in the hole.
Okay, so you used clay to center it in the hole because holes will vary depending on the caliber of the bullet that went through the wall, for example.
Depending on several factors, but yes.
Yeah,
But I
several.
appreciate that, Mrs. M.
If the bullet was tumbling instead of going straight, it would make a larger hole, correct?
It would make a more unique shaped hole and we would notice that.
Right, of course. I'm going to ask you if you could go to the overhead
I'm going to
view.
ask you what the point
of
of
the
these
trajectory
questions
rods.
are, sir, because I don't get it. Usually I can follow along,
Is there a hard copy photo?
but I'm having difficulty. Okay,
Well,
you
that's
knew
getting
where I
set up.
was
Let me
going
just
with that there, Miss.
Show
So
you
thank you,
exhibit
because I was,
S1, little
know,
K.
I lost my
You
mouse.
recognize that?
Yes,
Oh, there
Little
it is.
B, 5-1, little B, you
Like I
recognize
lost
that?
Yes.
the pointer
5-1
part. I
C,
have
you
the
recognize
physical mouse.
All right, and as I understand it, these are from the Faro scan, is that right?
the angular measurements are from the Ferroscan, yes. And then the software that we use to produce that, we can digitize the trajectory like that.
Okay, so let's look at 5-1, little b. I believe
That's
that's
what I
on the
was
screen,
thinking,
but that's the overhead that's
anaphylaxis.
reflected in this photo.
Yes,
Let me just make sure I understand it.
But
Now, there appear to be
far be it from me.
4 different lines on this, red,
yes,
yellow, blue, and green. Am I correct?
correct.
All right, so are you indicating that those are 4 different shots into the trailer?
Yes,
Could it be more than 4 shots?
absolutely.
If the gun or rifle was held still and fired more than 1 shot, would it be reflected in 1 line?
It would take an incredible amount of marksmanship to hit the same hole, kind of the Robin Hood firing into the same arrow,
Sure, sure.
but it is possible.
So you show the holes on the side of the trailer, correct? So this laser, this angle, this colored line is going through each hole, right?
The 2 holes, yes.
I'm sorry,
2 holes,
the 2 holes,
the entrance hole and then the second point.
right? And so if I understand this, please correct me if I say something wrong, but at the end here where this orange bush hog is, the lines stop into the ground, it looks like. Is that
Yes,
right?
correct.
So from the angle of the hole, this would be the farthest point the rifle could be if it was firing the shots into the trailer.
Yes,
Is that what you're telling us?
yes.
All right. Can you tell from this position whether a person is lying on the ground when firing those shots or not?
No. We don't ever tell where a person was. I can tell you approximately where the muzzle could have been.
And where was that?
The weapon?
Where would that
It
be?
would be very low to the ground.
Low to the ground.
Yes,
And certainly no further away from the trailer from where these lines end, correct?
correct.
But it could be between the bush hog and the porch.
That is correct.
So you can't tell
Huh.
where the shot was fired from. It was just along this continuum.
Yes, somewhere between the first bullet strikes on the porch and where these lines ended in the ground.
All right.
Interesting.
And I think you said the distance from the door to the end here was 30-some feet.
Sounds correct, yes.
Okay. So it was within, the porch here is a few feet wide, right?
Mhm.
Do you know by any chance?
I can
Oh, no,
measure it if you
Mrs.
like,
M,
but
he's
approximately maybe 6,
supposed
8
to
feet.
be
Okay,
in
that's fine.
court.
I am going to ask you to go back to
testify.
the Pharaoh because I want to get a measurement.
What we need to
inside the
hope
home.
is that he doesn't opt out. And if he does if he and Angela both opt out, we're going to need your we're going to need your body in the courtroom to come and tell us what had happened. No, he works for the BCI, which is a
Let me know when you're ready,
separate
sir.
entity. I don't think there's very much more of this, honestly.
Are you ready?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you go to the area of the kitchen?
yes. Would you like to scan from inside the kitchen?
Inside the kitchen towards the bedroom where the bodies were found.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to see
Down
any
that
of
hallway.
this because it's obviously I can't look at this family looking at watching this anymore. It just breaks my heart. All right. So, oh, Mrs. O, if you would please, if they opt out, which they're allowed to, would you please, 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 you'll have to let me know what they say because I have to know. I know that there's going to be, reporters but that's not the same as having somebody who chills with the ward in a courtroom on that, listening to that, because I would be very curious about, I would be interested in hearing your take on the testimony. If you wouldn't mind, I would really greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, you guys. Well, this is where I leave you. I got to get to bed because I got to get up early so I can begin tomorrow's day, and I've got to for court, and I have a feeling it's going to be more forensics. I'm not sure though, for sure. Well, yeah, I'm just, I feel like it's going to be forensicking. So, I'll be here in the morning at 8:50. I want to thank you guys all for being here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for a great chat. You guys are just the best. I don't know. We have the best chat ever. I think what I'm going to do from now on, though, I'm going to do we're going to continue with this trial and recapping and all that until we've got 6 to 8 weeks of this. But I think on the weekends, I know Friday for sure. I don't, if you weren't here this morning, you didn't hear this, but Friday for sure, Dr. B and I are going to be back on the roasts. This Friday will be the recorded conversation, the call between Melanie Gibbs and Lori Vallow, where Melanie's all, "You're not a very good friend for telling the popos that I had the kids and I don't have," that call. And then Lori's like, "Well, just want you to know, even if you're mad at us, Melanie, that we still love you so much, blah, 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 blah." Yeah, that call, that's what we're going to roast. Oh, you're welcome, Gil. Thank you for being here very much. So that's what we're gonna do on Friday, and then Saturday we're gonna do. I have the knots to do on West Memphis 3, so I'll have that, and then maybe I will take Sunday off. I don't know. I just needed to take this Sunday off because we went so. I went. It was such a long. It was such a late. Wasn't that long? It's just that it went late. And I'm old and I can't take it anymore. I don't recover like I used to. It just is what it is. But yeah, that's the plan for this week. So, oh yes, Mrs. M, I am going to stream live here. Yes, ma'am, I am. Yes, ma'am, I am. And even if they call Jake Wagner to the stand and it's after lunch on that day, I will stay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I want us all to hear it. All right. So, thank you guys all for being here. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Monday night. Stay safe out there on the real streets and these YouTube streets because they's dicey, y'all. All right. Bye, you guys. Thank you again.